But I was thinking to myself, well, why aren't we investing that way today? If we can actually solve this problem, why don't we start by investing in the solution rather than, arguing about how to calculate emissions? I think we sometimes let verification and quantification get in the way of, and perfection really get in the way of moving forward in progress. So I've been in the what's called institutional investment industry for almost 20 years. Scope 4 Capital specifically focuses on public companies that are scaling climate solutions, but that's not where I started. I'm a avid reader. And a lot of my readings kind of got me on this path, this climate path, if you want. I'm also a pretty avid traveler. I love traveling all over the world to emerging countries and developed countries. Just kind of got going down a path, and all the while traveling to places like Cambodia, where I really saw the result of a lot of the consumerism that we have here today. Just thinking that it was going to be a lot of nature, and ended up seeing a lot of, again, kind of waste in the waterways and the killing of biodiversity. And then on the investment side, a lot of clients about 5 years ago started asking us about how we think about climate risk and how we're thinking about it potentially as an opportunity through climate solutions. And in talking to a lot of our investment peers and looking at a lot of the strategies, particularly in public markets, I really felt like there weren't a lot of options out there. And a lot of the strategies in public markets that are kind of called climate are really, they end up just being kind of technology strategies in disguise with a wrapper on them. Microsoft, Apple, just because they're committing to net zero doesn't necessarily mean that they're contributing to the lowering of emissions. But I was thinking to myself, well, why aren't we investing that way today? If we can actually solve this problem, why don't we start by investing in the solution rather than, arguing about how to calculate emissions? I think we sometimes let verification and quantification get in the way of, and perfection really get in the way of moving forward in progress. So
yeah, that's really fascinating. A bunch of things you touched on were interesting. So I'm going to be in Cambodia, by the way, at the end of the year.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing a big tour with my family. We're going to Vietnam and a bunch of places. So I'm hoping to explore some of what you see. Part of the trip is, adventure, but we also want to understand sustainability and how others are doing it. And sometimes you have to see it, firsthand to really feel it. In the U.S., one of the things I always think about, especially with waste, is you just don't, it's out of sight, out of mind all the time. But you think about the magnitude of waste, and then think about the magnitude of the value that's still just getting thrown out. And it just kind of baffling to quantify. Like, in the U.S., we will produce on average about 128,000 pounds of trash in our lifetime. I actually sat in a pile of if you go to StuffTV.org, you can see it. I laid in a pile of trash, and then we kind of photoshopped it so you could see what it looked like over the course of a year, just my family's. And it's kind of hard to think about. And I think you kind of, there's a reason that the trash sites are not out in the public. They're always hidden. You have to go find them, right? Like, I don't think they want you to see what it actually looks like.
Well, I'm sure you're familiar with, the term climate justice. And a lot of times places like landfills are put in underrepresented communities that can't defend themselves. And so a lot of that pollution and the smell ends up, being in places that, most people can't see, but it's still affecting